And there I was, staring at a blank screen for 6 hours, convinced that if the first sentence wasn't perfect, the entire project was a failure. My heart was racing, my coffee was cold for the third time that day, and I felt like a total fraud. I had all the tools, Luna, but I was standing in my own way.
That feeling of being stuck is exactly what we are diving into today. Welcome to Speak English with Luna, the podcast where we upgrade your fluency and your mindset at the same time. Today, we are exposing the 3 silent habits that are killing your progress with our guest, psychologist Dr. Julian Vance.
Thank you, Luna. It is a pleasure to be here. You know, most people think progress is stopped by big external walls, but usually it's these tiny, quiet habits that bleed our energy dry.
Bleed our energy dry. What a strong image. We often don't notice the damage until it's too late. Why is it so hard for us to see these habits while they are happening?
Because they feel productive. We mistake being busy for being effective, and that is the first trap we need to talk about.
Okay, Dr. Vance, let's get right to it. You said we often mistake being busy for being effective. But what is the very first silent killer that stops our growth before we even realize it?
The first one, Luna, is constant comparison. In this digital age, we are always looking at other people's lives through a screen. We see their success, their perfect vacations, and their high productivity. The problem is that we compare our behind-the-scenes mess to their highlight reel. It's like comparing a rough first draft of a book to a finished, polished novel.
That is so true. I see this happening with my English students every single day. They go online, see someone speaking perfect, fluent English without an accent, and then they look at their own grammar notes and feel bad. They feel overwhelmed because the gap looks too big to bridge.
Exactly. And when the brain feels overwhelmed, it enters a state of freeze. You don't want to take action because the task feels impossible. You stop practicing, you stop trying, and suddenly you're stuck. This habit is silent because it happens in your head while you're just relaxing on your phone.
Overwhelmed and stuck. We definitely need to remember those words. Let's pause for our first vocabulary checkpoint for our B1 learners. Overwhelmed. That heavy feeling when you have too much work or too many emotions to handle. Stuck, when you are unable to move, progress, or change a situation. Comparison, the act of looking at things to see how they are similar or different.
If you are always in a state of comparison, you lose your own path. You stop looking at your own progress because you're too busy looking at someone else's.
That is a deep insight. Hey, listeners, I have a small task for you. We want this to be a conversation. Go to the comment section right now and tell us, in which part of your life do you feel the most stuck right now? Is it your English, your career, or maybe your fitness? Tell us. We are reading every single one. Dr. Vance, that first point about comparison really hit home. It's so subtle, isn't it? But now I want to go deeper. We talked about looking at others, but what about how we look at our own work? What is the second silent habit that is quietly sabotaging our progress?
The second habit is one that many people actually wear like a badge of honor, Luna. It is perfectionism disguised as high standards. People often tell me, Dr. Vance, I'm just a perfectionist. I want things to be right. But in reality, perfectionism is often a sophisticated defense mechanism. It's a shield we use to protect ourselves from the fear of being judged or failing.
That is such a fascinating way to put it. A defense mechanism. It sounds like we are trying to protect our ego rather than actually trying to do a good job. Can you give us a concrete example, maybe a story from your practice?
Certainly. I once worked with a brilliant architect named David. David was incredibly talented, but he had been working on the same residential project for nearly 2 years. The client was frustrated and the firm was losing money. When I sat down with him, I asked what was holding him back. He told me, Jillian, I just can't decide on the placement of the windows in the living room. If the light isn't exactly right at 4 p.m. in the winter, the whole house is a failure.
Wow, that sounds exhausting. He was looking for a perfect that doesn't really exist, right?
Exactly. In psychology, we call this analysis paralysis. David was so afraid of making a wrong choice that he made no choice at all. He was stuck in a loop of overthinking. This is the perfectionist's paradox. The more you want it to be perfect, the less you actually produce. And the tragedy is that while you're waiting for perfection, the world is moving on without you.
Analysis paralysis. I see this all the time with English learners who are at the B2 level. They know a lot of grammar, they have a good vocabulary, but when it's time to speak in a meeting or at a party, they freeze. They're analyzing the sentence structure in their head, checking the conjugation of the verb, worrying about the preposition, and by the time they are ready to speak, the conversation has moved to a completely different topic.
That's a perfect parallel, Luna. They're sacrificing the connection for the correction. They want the perfect sentence, so they miss the perfect moment to connect with another human being. We have to understand that done is better than perfect. In David's case, he had to learn that a house with okay windows is better than a house that only exists on a computer screen.
I love that. Sacrificing the connection for the correction. That is a golden nugget right there. So, how do we break this habit? If someone is listening right now and realizes they are an analysis paralysis victim, what is the first step?
The first step is to embrace the 70% rule. Tell yourself that your goal is to get the task to 70% of your ideal quality and then ship it, move forward. You have to give yourself permission to be messy. Growth is inherently messy. If you aren't making mistakes, you're not pushing your boundaries. You're just staying in your comfort zone.
Growth is inherently messy. Let's take a moment to look at some of the higher level vocabulary Dr. Vance just used. For our B2 learners, these are essential. To sabotage, to intentionally prevent a plan or process from being successful. Defense mechanism, a mental process used to avoid reaching unpleasant or painful conclusions. Paradox, a situation that seems impossible because it contains two opposite facts or characteristics. To embrace, to accept an idea or a challenge with enthusiasm. Inherently, in a way that is a natural, permanent part of something.
Those are great words, Luna. And notice how they all relate to the mindset of progress. If you can name these feelings, like analysis paralysis, you take away their power over you.
Exactly. Knowledge is power. Now, before we move to the final and perhaps most dangerous habit, I want to ask Dr. Vance about the third habit, productivity guilt. This is something I struggle with personally. Even when I'm on vacation, I feel like I should be doing something useful.
Ah, yes, the silent killer number 3. We have been conditioned to believe that our value as human beings is equal to our output. If we're not producing, we feel like we're failing. This leads to chronic stress and eventually burnout. When we're burnt out, our progress doesn't just slow down, it stops completely.
It's like trying to drive a car when the engine is smoking, but you refuse to pull over because you want to reach the destination faster.
That is exactly it. And the irony is, by refusing to stop, you ensure that you will never arrive at all.
Dr. Vance, what you just said about productivity guilt is truly profound. It's almost a pervasive cultural phenomenon, isn't it? We live in an era where hustle culture is celebrated, and taking a break is often viewed as a lack of ambition or even a moral failure. Let's elevate the conversation for our advanced listeners. How do these habits manifest in a professional or high-stakes environment where the pressure to perform is ubiquitous?
That is a sophisticated question, Luna. In high-stakes environments, these habits become even more insidious because they are often masked by professional terminology. We don't say, "I'm afraid of failing." We say, "We are performing a rigorous risk assessment." But the underlying mechanism is often just that same analysis paralysis we discussed earlier, just dressed in a suit. When we reach this level of professional life, the diminishing returns of overanalysis become catastrophic. You are not just losing time, you're losing the propensity to innovate.
The propensity to innovate. I love that phrasing. It's about the natural tendency or inclination to try something new. Listeners, pay attention to how Dr. Vance uses words like insidious, meaning something that spreads in a subtle, stealthy, but harmful way.
Exactly. To combat this, we must develop a sense of equanimity, and that brings us to our golden word for today's episode.
Oh, I've been waiting for this. What is the golden word that will help our C1 learners truly master their mindset?
The word is equanimity. It comes from the Latin aequus, even, and animus, mind. It refers to mental calmness, composure, and evenness of temper, especially in a difficult situation. If you can maintain equanimity when your project is messy or when your English grammar isn't perfect, you take the power back from the silent killers. You are no longer a slave to the outcome, you are a master of the process.
Equanimity. What a beautiful, powerful word to add to our vocabulary. Now it's time for our community challenge. We don't just want you to listen, we want you to act.
Here is your challenge. This week, I want you to perform one intentionally imperfect task, whether it's writing an email without checking the grammar 5 times or posting a video where you make a small mistake in English. Do it on purpose. Experience the discomfort, maintain your equanimity, and realize that the world didn't end.
That sounds terrifying and liberating at the same time. Listeners, share your imperfect task in our community forum or on social media using the hashtag LunaEquanimity. Let's be messy together. It's time for our word tour. Let's lock in these 5 powerful terms from today's episode so you can start using them in your conversations immediately. Are you ready, Dr. Vance?
Ready as I'll ever be, Luna. Let's do it.
Number 1, overwhelmed. That heavy feeling when everything is just too much. Example, I felt overwhelmed by the sheer number of emails in my inbox this morning.
Number 2, sabotage. To ruin a plan or a process, often unintentionally. Example, don't let your fear of failure sabotage your chances of getting that promotion.
Number 3, analysis paralysis. Being so stuck in thought that you can't make a decision. Example, I spent 3 hours looking at travel sites because of analysis paralysis and never booked the flight.
Number 4, insidious. Something that causes harm in a slow, sneaky way. Example, social media comparison is insidious. It steals your joy without you even noticing.
And finally, our golden word, equanimity. Mental calmness and composure. Example, even when the technology failed during the presentation, she maintained her equanimity and kept speaking. Dr. Vance, this has been an absolute game changer. Recognizing these silent killers is the first step toward finally moving forward with our English and our lives. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us today.
It was my pleasure, Luna. Just remember, progress isn't about being perfect. It's about being persistent. Keep moving, even if it's messy. Maintain your equanimity, and the results will follow.
I love that. And to you, our amazing listeners, if you found value in this episode, hit that subscribe button and leave us a 5-star review. It helps other learners find our community. Until next time, keep practicing, keep growing, and stay fluent. I'm Luna, and this was Speak English with Luna. See you in the next one. Bye.